Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the Worth Crowd Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Dougie Fresh, and again, still can't get rid of him. He just shows up.
I'm just here every week.
Jacob Klucas.
He tries to start the show without me, and I know it.
You're just here so you don't get fined, okay?
Okay, I can respect that.
Marshawn Lynch style. So, little congratulations is in order for Scotty Scheffler, the PGA 2025 PGA Tournament champion. I mean, honestly, he had a hell of a third round, and nobody else really wanted to challenge him all the way to the end.
Rom had something to say about it until about the 15th, 16th hole. Yeah. Bryson, once again, shot himself in the foot.
He's close.
I mean, Bryson is like on verge of winning like every major tournament, and then he just implodes. I think it was, Friday? I think it was. I mean, he was in the lead Friday. Then I think it was Friday. It was either Friday or Saturday, one of the two. Had the lead or was tied for the lead, doubled hole 17, bogeyed the 18th, and I'm just like, brother, that's 3 strokes you gave up right there. And
I mean, he just his iron play is not his second shots. His iron play,
and we've talked about it before. Like, I think it's because he thinks about it way too much. And I get it. There's a lot that you do have to think about. I'm not saying that, but I think Bryson overthinks it every time.
Well, and he doesn't with his driver.
No, because he knows he could just most holes he can just walk. If he's hitting driver, he knows he can walk up and just smack the shit out of it. And
yeah, and then you have Scotty Scheffler, who barely looks like he wants to be out on the golf course.
I see. Up until today was the first time we saw some emotion out of Scotty.
Yeah,
I would say. Yeah, a lot of emotion. And granted, this is his first major win that hasn't been the Masters. So, I mean, that could play a little bit into it. You know, he's finally gotten over that hump. He's now halfway through his,
his Grand Slam.
Grand Slam, yeah. Sorry. Halfway through it. So, I mean, we're in the era of Scotty. I mean, we knew this. You know, this is his era of golf right now. But, I mean, like I said about Bryson, though, I mean, dude's literally right there. He's just knocking every time. And he
just needs to find that next gear for Sunday.
And it was Saturday, by the way. He doubled. Sorry, he bogeyed 16. He bogeyed 16 and then double bogeyed 17. I mean, it's 3 strokes right there. He just gave up. Now, granted, it wouldn't.
He was in the lead at one point.
That's what I'm saying. That was when he was in the lead and just surrendered 3 strokes right there. I mean,
yeah, seems like he does just get in his own head. Like in golf, such a mental game that. You can't do that.
No.
That's why someone like Scheffler with that demeanor, who just doesn't give a shit, basically, usually ends up doing pretty well because you hit a bad shot, you bogey one. All right, well, I'm going to go out and birdie the next one.
Well, there was the one that Scotty was talking about. It was day 1 on Thursday. I guess he had hit a ball in the fairway that dug into the ground, and you know their rules were they weren't allowed to play up on that, so they couldn't pull it up. And you know he was just like, you know, he was explaining about how he doesn't think it's fair. You know, you get penalized for hitting a fairway like that, and that happens and stuff like that. But he had said in his interview, he said, you know, I hit a shot, you know, I got out of it. He goes, you know, I could have hung my hat on it and, you know, let it bother me, and it could have affected me, you know, 3-4 strokes, but it only cost me 1. So I mean, congrats to Scotty. We'll talk about it a little bit more later as well, but congratulations to the Final Four now of the NBA. The Timberwolves moved on in 5 games against the Warriors. The Nuggets just wrapped up Game 7 today against the Nuggets. Sorry, the Thunder. Wow. Just realized that. Man, Thunder just wrapped up Game 7 against the Nuggets.
That's crazy.
Knicks wrapped it up the other night against the Boston Celtics, and then the Indiana Pacers finished off the Cleveland Cavaliers about almost a week ago now. So conference finals are set in the NBA. So, which leads us now. What about those teams that didn't make the playoffs? And they get thrown into this draft lottery system. And that's going to be a good portion of what we're talking about today is the lottery itself and then the lottery system. So if I can here. So this is how the draft lottery ended up panning out for the teams that did not make the playoffs, with the Dallas Mavericks getting the first overall pick. San Antonio 2, Philadelphia 3, Charlotte 4. You can see the rest as you go on. And of course, you know, the main story out of this is the major conspiracy of the NBA lottery is rigged. How the hell did the Dallas Mavericks, who made one of the worst trades you could imagine and giving up Luka Doncic, also make the play-in, barely lose the play-in, and then end up with the number 1 overall pick? But they did. Whether you want to believe in the conspiracy or not that the NBA lottery is rigged is completely up to you. Spurs obviously ending up with the 2nd pick, and then Philly at 3. So, but here's my issue with the lottery system. The Utah Jazz and the Washington Wizards were the 2 worst teams in the NBA. Utah being the absolute worst. For the 5th or 6th year in a row now, I believe it is, the worst team in the NBA record-wise has gotten the 5th overall pick, the exact number 5 overall pick, the worst team in the league.
Wow.
And so here's
They have the most chances, right?
Yes, and they have the top 3 have the highest odds. So I believe the top 3 were Washington, and Charlotte had the top 3 highest odds to get number 1. And I believe they're set at like 14% or something like that. Dallas had a 1.6% chance at the number 1 overall pick. Had the lowest they are the lowest odds in NBA history to end up with the number 1 pick. Doug, can you name who the other one was?
The second lowest?
The team's now with I believe it's the second lowest odds to have the lowest chances to get number 1 and still get it.
Is it actually one of these teams on the list?
No, think of yes, but it's not from this draft. It's one of your favorite players. That's where his draft.
Derrick Rose?
Yep. The 2008, the Chicago Bulls had a 1.8% chance at the number 1 pick and ended up with the number 1 pick. But here's my issue with the lottery system. And I understand why we implemented the lottery system, because we had to take away from teams tanking. You know, there was too many teams year in, year out just tanking the season and constantly were in that number 1 pick status. So I get why we did it. But at the same time, we wonder why bad franchises in the NBA continue to be bad franchises. This is why. So the draft is essentially made for, I mean, yes, you as teams, every team can build through the draft. But for these smaller market teams, the only way they're getting big name players is through the draft. You know, nobody's going out of their way to sign with Charlotte, Utah, Washington. All right. Nobody's going out of their way to do that. So the only way for these teams to obtain those guys is through the draft. Charlotte has LaMelo Ball, and that is a star in his own right, drafted to Charlotte. You know, Utah's had Stockton, Malone, Deron Williams, all drafted to Utah. Donovan Mitchell drafted to Utah. You know, Washington, Wall, Bradley Beal, they were drafted to Utah. Now, like, Gilbert Arenas is kind of the one-off with Washington because he signed with Washington, but that's because they gave him the fattest contract, and Gilbert wasn't going to turn that down. But this is these teams' opportunity to try to change something. You know, whether it actually does change them or not is one thing, but this is their opportunity to change their franchise. And year in and year out now, the team with the worst record gets screwed and doesn't get I don't want to say doesn't get a chance because they get the highest odds, but hasn't gotten the number 1 pick, hasn't even gotten a top 3 pick in the last 5 years. So how do we fix this? How would I fix this? So I think you got to go back. So my thing is, I understand tanking, but at the end of the day, what benefit did tanking do before? Like, it didn't do anything for the league. It wasn't changing the league to where this team won a championship because for 4 straight years, they decided they were going to, you know, tank, and they got 4 top picks in a row, and now those 4 top picks are stars. It never really happened like that, okay? So, for one, I'd go back to the way it was. Worst team gets the number 1 pick, all right? But if you want to take tanking out of it and take a potential of tanking out of it, then you do a 3-year rule. If you're within the top 3 picks for 3 straight years, then that 4th year, if you would fall into that all right, now the highest pick that I would say you could get is pick 5 or 6 just for that year. All right, you could be the worst team in the league for the 4th straight year. Guess what? You're getting pick 5. That's what you get. Everybody else moves up, you get pick 5. That's the highest pick you could possibly get. Still get you a good player, but it keeps you from year in, year out, constantly trying to go for number 1. And also, I don't understand the theory of tanking in the NBA because it's not like every year we have a superstar that comes out at number 1. Right. All right. So it's not like there's a reason necessarily to tank every year for a player. Now, Cooper Flag this year, sure, is a reason to tank. A couple years ago, Victor willing to tank, sure. Zion, sure. But there's not every year that these players come out. That usually it's about one player about every, I would say, probably 3, 4, 5 years that we get. That would probably, you would say, is willing to tank for. So that's how I would change it. I mean, I just don't like how bad franchises continue to be bad franchises because it's, I mean, it's not really their fault that they're such a small market that they're not going to sign with any. Nobody's going to sign with them. So their only way of getting players is through the draft. And the fact that we're getting, and I'm also not saying I want these players to play for bad franchises per se. I do like the idea that Cooper Flag isn't going to get stuck in Washington for 4 years. All right, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, we wonder why the same 5, 6 teams every year are bad. This is why. They're terrible because they can't get good players because they're not a lot because they just can't win the lottery. And teams like Dallas and San Antonio are benefiting from it because they're the ones that are getting to slide up, and they're already good teams as is, and now their team is going to be even better.
Yeah, Dallas is going to be a scary team next year with Anthony Davis healthy, most likely Cooper Flag and Kyrie.
Well, Kyrie probably won't play next year, so that's the one thing with
What do
this
you
torn ACL.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So, but still a good team. Like now, I question, can Cooper Flag and Anthony Davis coexist? Because I think there's a lot of too much in similarities in their game to crowd the paint a little bit.
And you saw what I sent you last week, past few days ago or whatever, where there was some conspiracy about now that Dallas has the number 1 pick, they're going to look at trading back for Luka to bring him back.
Which they're not.
I was like, could you imagine if that happens?
It's funny though, but at the same time, so it's like when you're Dallas, sure, you're going to take Cooper Flag, obviously. That's right. If they keep the pick. Let's state that.
Yeah, not trade it.
But that's my thing is Anthony Davis has been hell-bent on playing the 4. So my question is, with the fit-wise, is Cooper Flag capable of playing the 3? I think he's capable of it, but is it his strong suit? Are you going to get the most out of him by putting him at the 3? I don't know. So there's that. Now let's take in, could Dallas trade the pick? You know, if I'm somebody like Milwaukee, and I know Giannis is looking at other teams, and I know Dallas would give me the number 1 overall pick potentially for a Giannis swap. Obviously, there'd be probably a little bit more added to that. But just sticking around just that. If you're Milwaukee, if I'm going to have to, or not really have to, but if I am going to get rid of Giannis, Cooper Flag's a pretty good trade-off for that. I get an aging star who's had some injuries the last couple of years, who's entering his 30s, and I get to replace him with a guy that potentially is a 10-year star. So if I'm Milwaukee, I would think about it. You know, and the other teams, San Antonio and Philadelphia, are in the same position. Like, they're in a position now. These top 3 teams are, Philadelphia is a good team when healthy. With Embiid, Maxey, Paul George all on the floor healthy, they're a good team. They're in position to where they could trade these picks for other assets, you know, for an asset that's going to help them win now. And I think the Spurs are in prime position now with all the Giannis to San Antonio potential talk. They're in prime position to get Giannis. You know, even if you're Milwaukee, if I could take Ace Bailey or Dylan Harper as my number 2, as my, next franchise leader, I'm feeling good about that as well. So I don't know. I think this draft is going to get very interesting in terms of, do these top teams trade? Does a team like Washington or Utah try to just say, screw it and give up, what they can to get up to the top? I think you have to try, especially with Nico Harrison known to make boneheaded decisions before. You have to try, at least call him and say, hey, what would you take for the number 1 pick? Test the waters, see what you can get. But I just don't like how this keeps bad teams bad. That's what I don't like about this lottery system, because there's no way the lottery system benefits teams that are like mid to, just barely miss the playoffs, and more so than it does the actual bad teams that need the draft pick. So I just don't like that, because, again, bad teams just continue to stay bad. And we wonder why, Washington, Utah, Charlotte, teams even like Portland are just constantly terrible every year. So I don't know. The NBA seems to be the only league that has this issue too, as well. So you don't see tanking as much in the NFL, So I don't know. I don't know what exactly the right answer is here to fix this, but it's not. I don't think it is the lottery system. So
I mean, you can't really. They're trying to control the tanking situation, but like you were saying, like I don't think it was that bad. Like to where teams were just like
I don't think it
blatantly
made that
not
much of a
trying to
difference.
win.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think they were thinking too much into that when they created this. I'm sure there was some other reasons why they created it, but they can. I don't know. I kind of liked your idea.
That or just up and make the percentage of for the bottom teams higher.
Right.
Make it these guys have a 20-25% chance.
What is it now?
14.
But
that's what I'm saying. Like, it just seems like that's even as much of a difference as, like, for Washington, 14% versus Dallas's 1 is a huge gap, but it's obviously not that big of a gap if it's happened on a yearly basis.
Yeah, they probably should just do that. Increase the odds that the worst teams get the.
And I would even go a step further and go, not even the top 3 teams get the same best odds. I would go a step further and go, all right, we're going to up the odds, 25% chance to the worst team in the league, 20% to the next 2, and then however you want to deviate it out after that.
Yeah.
You got to give the team with the worst record at least a chance at it.
That sucks that they're not. That's happened so many times.
And I feel for people that are, granted, I don't know a whole lot of them. I'm assuming they're in that town, but feel bad for Wizards fans, and if there are some, or Hornets fans, or Vernon Maxwell's favorite Jazz fans. I just feel for them because it's like they have a chance, but they don't have a chance at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I still think it. I think on the devil's advocate for me, I do see that it brings some interest into the NBA because now you have Dallas getting the number 1 pick from all the drama they just went through. Now they can get Cooper Flag if they want and see what happens. It kind of brings a little more interest into the game.
Understand the conspiracy because now it's like it almost makes it seem like Adam Silver said, hey, and it's a logical thing to think, but it's almost like Adam Silver, hey, LeBron's close to being on his way out. The last time we let a star retire from LA, it took forever to get a new one in place. Let's not wait that long this time. I need you to trade Luka to the Lakers, get them a star. And in return, if you do this, I'm going to make sure you get the number 1 pick and have Cooper Flag.
I mean, I'm sure there's been worse things. Or, there's been
something else somebody brought up. Somebody said on Twitter, of course, X, whatever you want to call it, because you always like to correct me when I say it. Somebody said, boy, if you're a white basketball star, Dallas is the place for you. Dirk, Luka, Cooper.
Well, I mean,
this will be the first American one.
We'll see. We'll see how it turns out. They have some different plays. Like you said, I don't know how. I mean, I don't know if they worry about the Anthony Davis one. I mean, they could try and move Davis.
So put yourself real quick. Put yourself in Dallas's shoes. You're Nico Harrison. You've made the moves you've made so far, right? What are you doing with the number 1 overall?
I'm taking if they think all the experts on their side say Cooper Flag is the next big thing, right? Which is yet to be seen. He may not be, but he's going to be really good. Most likely. Kyrie's hurt. Anthony Davis really has never been that healthy. You already traded away Luka. Why not just start over? Move Davis, keep Flag, because they're most likely not going to be able to work together, and let Kyrie get healthy, and you can bring somebody else in when you move Davis, or get some picks from later, and then you're just starting over. And then really it's actually the perfect scenario because when they do build that casino and do all that stuff,
they have a star.
Now they have a star.
So my only thing with that is my gut feeling is that, and I feel like it's not only just it's pressure from the ownership to Nico, is I could see him trading the pick only because, and I'm not saying he will, I don't think he will, but I could see him trading the pick only because I think he's going to feel pressure from not only media but from ownership to try to win a title before Luka does in LA. And I think your easiest quick fix for that is to not take, whether generational talent or not, is to not take an 18-year-old kid and.
Well, really though, ownership cares about money. It's the whole reason they want to do that, the casino piece, right?
True, but Nico's
bring Flag in, he's going to put butts in seats.
But you can also make a lot of money for ownership by winning a championship.
I think over the long run, you make more money by having people at the games.
But that's my thing. I would keep Cooper. I would keep Cooper, obviously. But I'm just saying I could see it where, especially he's going to look at it from let's just say Dallas, Kyrie, AD, is on and off the court next year, and it's Cooper Flag. Let's just say Dallas doesn't make the playoffs next year, right? And let's say the Lakers are a 2 seed in the West, okay? And let's just say by this time next year, the Lakers are in the conference finals. There is going to be Nico might get fired then, because they're going to go, brother, you traded away our generational star. We missed the playoffs the last 2 years now. Yeah, we got the number 1 pick. We got Cooper Flag, but just not enough to keep you. So that's where I'm saying the pressure of Nico just keeping his job. So I could see him, even though I don't think it would fit. If they could get Giannis, I feel like they would.
That doesn't fit.
But that would probably be about the only thing they would probably trade that number 1 pick for. But yeah, I would obviously I'm drafting Cooper, and I'd play out next year with AD and Cooper, see how the dynamic works for a year. If it doesn't, I may give it to the following year's trade deadline and see if Kyrie coming back healthy changes anything with that. And if it doesn't, by then I'm getting rid of AD. You got to go. So
we'll see what happens. That's going to be interesting to see.
I think there's going to be a lot of potential storylines surrounding up to and including during the NBA draft.
Oh yeah, for sure. So,
moving on to the now pro football world, the NFL schedule release came out, and before we kind of get into those, Doug, I want to show you something.
Show me, good sir.
So after
that's horrible background. Disgusting. So after
the schedule release, this is the miles traveled for every NFL team this year that they'll have to go.
Okay.
And this does, and I'm only showing this for obviously other people, for other fans of other teams, because this does play a role in how well does your team do this year. And look at the LA Chargers.
Yeah, they're traveling a lot.
And obviously you expect the LA teams, because if they're not playing West Coast, which a lot of times they're not, besides when they're at home, you're traveling across the country anyway.
Yep.
So I expect the West Coast teams, but Jacksonville at 29,000 miles. Now, a lot of that is they're going to play in London this year.
Yep. Yeah, I guess that does include the European game.
But how about Cincinnati only having to travel 8,000 miles?
That's awesome. And really, those top 3, those are going to be really good teams. Look at those good teams. Detroit, Baltimore.
Really, if you look at all of them, Cincinnati through Green Bay right there. Those are all potential playoff teams.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't think not traveling as far doesn't play a role in that, you're mistaken. But
Travis Hunter going to be tired. Motherfucker playing both sides of the ball. And he got to travel 29,000 miles. That motherfucker's going to be tired.
So then, let's see. Let's go this.
AR is already tapping it on his helmet.
That's crazy. I don't want to hear that, Doug. All right, and then this NFL strength of schedule. This is the other thing that plays a role going into the year. So this is the strength of schedule. Now, this is all based off teams, win-loss percentage from the year before. So this is the percentage of strength of schedule, with the Giants having the hardest strength of schedule and the Niners having the weakest schedule this year. So there you go. Indy kind of at that bottom makes me feel a lot better about the team going into this year. The Bears having one of the harder strength of schedules. Same with the Lions. Dude, let me tell you, the NFL basically came out this year and absolutely said, you know what? We are going to fuck the Dallas Cowboys. They gave them the Eagles on opening night, Thursday Night Football. On Thanksgiving, they gave them the Chiefs on Thanksgiving. And then Christmas Day gets them the Commanders. Every national primetime game that they could have, they said, you know what? Give them a real good team.
It's their year, though. This is their year.
Oh, my God. And Scotty, who was on the show last week, kind of joked in our group chat and was like, they're just going to release the entire Eagles schedule until, the actual schedule release, which they basically did. But yeah, any of these that stick out to you that maybe seeing this you wouldn't have thought was a playoff team, but seeing their strength of schedule might change your mind?
First one that jumps off is the Patriots. I think they got some good pieces and now with Vrabel now coaching and having that week of a schedule is really going to help that first year, and they're gonna look better. Jacksonville still. Well, they're still, I guess, it's still yet to be seen.
Let me tell you, I went through Buffalo's schedule, and in all honesty, if Buffalo went anywhere between 13-4 or 16-1, I would not be shocked. Their schedule, I mean, granted, it's kind of towards more so the middle on here, but that schedule is not that hard for them.
Josh Allen's going to have a good year this year. He's getting married to Haley Steinfeld.
Back-to-back MVPs, question mark, maybe?
Maybe.
Even though
he's going to be slinging that thing.
But yeah, Colts having a low strength of schedule for me
that's a huge win for
does
for
a
us.
lot for my self-esteem going into this season.
Really want AR to be good.
Yeah, me too. Here's another little interesting fact I'm going to throw out there as well. And I'm not saying that it's going to happen, not predicting it's going to happen. I'm just saying, who am I to argue with history? Okay.
It does repeat itself.
All right. In 2003, so the college football season would have been 02-03.
Right.
In 2003, the Ohio State Buckeyes won the national championship. All right. The following NFL season, the 03 NFL season, the Carolina Panthers opened with the Jacksonville Jaguars and later played in that year's Super Bowl. In 2015, the Ohio State Buckeyes won the national championship. That following NFL season, the Carolina Panthers opened up with the Jacksonville Jaguars and proceeded to make the Super Bowl that year.
Oh, so that's Cam Newton year.
2025, the Ohio State Buckeyes win the national championship. Carolina opens this year with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm not going to pick the Carolina Panthers, but I'm just saying, who am I to argue with history? I mean, something about Ohio State winning a national championship that makes Carolina want to go on a run.
Who was the 03 team?
That was Jake Delhomme. Yeah, and then 15 obviously was Cam Newton's MVP year. So, I mean, listen, is this the year that Bryce Young just fully embraces being the number 1 overall pick and just goes off? Doug, as a fantasy owner, would like to know.
How his rookie year, I would have loved to know what the hell happened. Why he was a walking trash can. I mean, the dude was a stud quarterback at Alabama. I get that, I guess
it doesn't always translate.
It doesn't, but I don't know, man. If that were if Carolina comes out this year and like awesome, you crack the code and you'll probably get some agents at your door down the road. So
I'm here for it. But also in the NFL, we had 2 major contract signings over the week. Derrick Henry signed a 2-year, $30 million extension with the Baltimore Ravens. I'm kind of iffy on it just because of how old Derrick Henry is. I do understand.
He played well. He's played well.
He's played well, and especially last year, played phenomenal. Had it not been for a Saquon Barkley, amazing year as well, probably would have been Offensive Player of the Year. We would have been talking about Derrick Henry just a little bit more. But again, I'm kind of iffy on it because, again, Derrick Henry's like 1 injury away from retirement.
Yeah, but it's only a 2-year contract, though. So
it is a lot of money, though, in that 2 years.
31 years running old, back with that market
31 years old, largest deal in NFL history for a running back over 30. So another contract that I absolutely do not agree with that was signed. The 49ers signed Brock Purdy to a 5-year, $265 million contract with $100 million guaranteed. I mean, what are we doing?
How much guaranteed?
$100 million guaranteed.
Jeez.
So that makes his cap hit in 2025 is only worth $5 million because that contract doesn't actually hit till next year. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before. I've said it on here before. He's not worth that money. I understand that because of the market that's been set for the quarterback, that that's where the market is set. He's
$53 million a year.
Yeah.
Well, so in his contract, though, when I was reading about it, It says the deal includes 181 and a million in total guaranteed.
Yeah, there must be something else in there besides the 100 mil.
Yeah. And then 165 million in the first 3 years.
So obviously, you said Purdy's ended up being what, 53 million?
Yeah.
If you divide Josh Allen's at 55 million per year, which rightfully so should be. Mahomes makes a total in 330 million. So, but now that just begs the question of the next line of quarterbacks to get paid. And so if you're a quarterback, this specific quarterback, and I just saw Brock Purdy get paid 265 million. If you're CJ Stroud, who's due for an extension here coming up in the next couple of years, I'm asking for 300 mil. I'm way better than Brock Purdy.
Caleb Williams after his rookie.
Jaden Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
these guys are going to get paid.
Like, that's the problem with the market, is that within the next, 2 years even, and that's if we even make it to the 2 years, we're going to see quarterbacks signing $500 deals. And it's probably at some point in our lifetime, there will be a $1 billion contract.
Yeah, I have zero doubt.
Like, not just they make $1 billion, like in total, like their NFL contract is $1 billion. And it might be Arch Manning. Who knows?
Maybe.
But if you're CJ Stroud, Jaden Daniels, Jaden's obviously just played 1 year, so he's still got a little bit of time. But, CJ's got the next 2 years, I think, before it kicks in. And, they usually start the negotiations a year early. So next offseason is when they're going to start negotiations. And
they're going to go to him. How much you want?
Don't talk to me unless we're starting at least 300 mil is what I'm telling them. Don't talk to me unless we're starting there. Especially if CJ comes out and balls out again, puts them in the playoffs again. Yeah. 300 mil easily.
Could you imagine someone like Tom Brady?
Now?
Yeah.
Well, but no, because Tom Brady always took pay cuts.
Yeah, but though
Brady didn't start getting greedy with his money until towards the end of his career, which rightfully so. He should. He's already given up so much. Why not be greedy at the tail end of your career? Think about Peyton Manning. Even the guys like Ben Roethlisberger, Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, like those guys would have all made bank today.
Well, yeah, but I was just kind of looking it up. So his most lucrative contract was the 4-year, $72 million extension he signed with the Patriots in 2010, which made him the NFL's highest paid player. And at the time, his annual average salary was $18 million a year. So you're talking Brock freaking Purdy, 15 years later
is almost making 3 times in that.
Yeah. So Brady would have pulled in. They would have paid Brady freaking.
I would have rolled out the first ever 500 mil contract for Brady.
I guess you can say Patrick Mahomes is close, like with his, being how great he is. But
the only difference is that Mahomes hasn't done the Brady thing in terms of taking pay cuts to keep other people.
They're not doing that now.
They're just pay me. We'll figure it out later. But which is all well and good when you're somebody like Mahomes, who can probably superhero himself, to carry whatever team he has around him. But at the same time, I think it is going to hit Mahomes at some point that, maybe I should take a little bit of a pay cut, give some of this money back to the team so we can get, an extra offensive tackle or an extra wide receiver. Because it's all well and good while Travis Kelce's still there. But what happens, next year or 2 years, whenever he decides, when Kelce retires, and you don't have
Andy Reid retires.
Yeah, and you don't have that certified, target. Now you're going to need one. So see, Brady got real lucky in terms of his tight end didn't come in till late in Brady's career, so he got to finish his career with Gronk all the way through. Mahomes isn't going to get to finish his career with Kelce, God forbid, unless Mahomes decides to retire early or something. But his tight end's going to go before him, so obviously they'll probably create something else. Maybe it is him and Rashee Rice, if Rashee Rice can, not speed and almost kill somebody. Maybe it is Xavier Worthy. Maybe Xavier Worthy does become that, next miniature like Tyreek Hill for him.
He has a chance. I like Xavier Worthy. I like his game.
So, but that's why I've kind of in my last 2 years of mock drafts for the Chiefs, I've had him taking one of these tight ends because it's I would almost rather take one now and have him learn behind Kelce and go ahead and start developing that chemistry between him and Mahomes in practice. So that way, when the day Kelsey does retire, I'm not having to figure that out in one offseason. So, but yeah, I'm not a fan of the Brock Purdy extension. I understand the Niners, feel like they had to do it because what are their other options if they don't? But I mean, I would have
$million though.
I would have almost listen. If I know the 49ers are a proud franchise and they want to win, I get it. But I almost would have just said, sayonara, walk. I don't care. We'll trade you. I'll take my chances with Kirk Cousins for a year. Either we're good and we're good enough just to coast by, or we're bad enough to where he puts me in a position to draft one next year. I'm not paying Brock Purdy $53 million. I would have let some other franchise pay him $53 million before I did.
We'll see. I don't know. He could come out and ball.
One more thing I want to throw out there before we wrap things up here. So, obviously, Aaron Rodgers hasn't signed anywhere. And this is a new theory that I heard, and I almost want to believe it at this point. So, Aaron Rodgers hasn't signed. There really hasn't been any kind of rumor, anything still about him in Pittsburgh. Like, it just seems like that's kind of like we kind of assume, but it's kind of just fizzled away at this point. So, what if Aaron Rodgers doesn't sign with any team and just says, you know what, I'm not going to sign. I'm going to wait it out and see if a quarterback gets hurt and a better position comes up or something. What if the Vikings start the season 0-4, J.J. McCarthy? Do you give Aaron Rodgers the call?
After what you just did with Sam Darnold, yeah. Why not go in there and manage the game and fucking throw it to Justin Jefferson?
Justin Jefferson, Hawkinson, and Jordan Addison. I mean,
yeah, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I would love that.
And just tell JJ, hey, take another year of development, Well,
then you bring that veteran role model. You could say in there and help him.
I'm just saying he could potentially be waiting out the Vikings on purpose.
Do you really think J.J. McCarthy's that good?
So here's the thing.
I was never really high on him.
I don't, but Kevin O'Connell is kind of that QB whisperer where he's kind of made a lot of quarterbacks he's had with him either A, look a lot better than what they are, or B, just look good in general. I mean, Kevin O'Connell had us thinking Josh Dobbs was a legitimate starting quarterback.
He did. He did.
All right.
Yep.
I mean, Kevin O'Connell had Kirk Cousins, looking like a top 10, top 5 quarterback. He had Sam Darnold, who was damn near dead and gone in the NFL, as an MVP candidate last year. So do I think JJ as a talent is that good? No. But do I trust that Kevin O'Connell's going to have him ready and looking good or better than what he is? Probably. So I can't really argue with anything that Kevin O'Connell really does. That's my thing. My thing is if Kevin O'Connell truly believes in JJ, then who am I to argue with Kevin O'Connell? So yeah.
He would be a perfect fit.
So, I mean, but yes, Kevin O'Connell is also one to quickly move off a quarterback as well. So you bet your ass if they start 0-2, 0-3 before they get to that 0-4 point, if you don't think Kevin ain't going to that front office and telling them Rodgers is still available, then because he will. But they also do have a good backup in Sam Howell. So there's also that too. So
we'll see. That could be interesting. Aaron Rodgers is going to be going to like wilderness and doing those drugs and stuff to get some spiritual enlightenment.
Yeah, have dreams of throwing touchdowns at Justin Jefferson.
Mm-hmm. He's going to do that, and it's going to materialize into something real.
Yep,
it's already written. Script's already done though this year. They're weird.
We're just waiting to see what's the Super Bowl logo this year, so we know who's playing in the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, it's there's. Look at those conspiracies.
Let's see, Super Bowl logo 2025. Can I get a legitimate one? Is this legit enough? Are we gonna roll with this one? You're doing that. All right. Is this a legitimate one? Because if so, I'm seeing purple and blue. So Ravens, Rams,
or Vikings and
Colts? Question mark. Vikings and Bills.
Why wouldn't Aaron Rodgers go to Indy? I feel like that would be a decent fit too, though.
I'm not
just for like a year or two.
And I'm saying no, not because I don't.
Pretty quick. I don't know.
I'm not saying no because I don't think Aaron Rodgers is good, but it's just at this point I'd rather just rock it out with Anthony Richardson and figure out what we got this year, so we can either move on with him next year or move on without him next year.
I think AR is going to make a good jump.
And that's the thing. If people don't understand, people underrate the Colts roster in general because of how bad the quarterback play has been. And that if AR comes out and plays to any bit of his potential, the Colts are a scary team in the AFC because they can run the ball. They have a good offensive line. They have receivers. They have a good defense now with good secondary players now. So
we're a quarterback away.
The Colts are and I feel like I've been saying this for almost 10 years now since Luck left us. I know it wasn't exactly 10 years ago, but I mean, we are literally
longer than that.
We are literally a quarterback away from being a serious AFC threat. And that's my thing is I just hope they can figure it out before they start shipping out Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, Zaire Franklin, and all these guys. Because my luck is they're going to ship out all these guys for draft picks. They're going to leave in free agency, whatever. And then we're finally going to get the quarterback. And then because we don't have all those other pieces, we're right back where we started. So,
well.
If we're going off this logo here, I'm going to go early Ravens Rams. That's going to be my early Super Bowl pick, just based off the logo.
It's in San Francisco. I think is that the Golden Gate Bridge?
Yes, Super Bowl location. I believe it is in San Francisco. Yes, at Levi Stadium.
Brock Purdy earning that contract.
Yeah, boy, it's time to show you're worth that contract.
Get him to the Super Bowl, give some home field advantage.
So, but right, well, I think that's all we got for today.
It doesn't. Remember, like, comment, subscribe. Help us out a little bit.
Hit the socials. Links to everything is in the social or in the social bio to everything. You can get to Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, my Facebook, our Twitter, everything. So same thing.
All right. See you guys.
See you.